He thought I'd never find out that's what still burns me. $80,000 gone, siphoned off like blood through a slow, deliberate cut. My co-founder, my best friend means something real. I distill anything, and the worst part. He used that stolen money to pitch his own startup idea to another company. A year later, I stood in that company's glass-walled boardroom, signing papers to buy it his dream, his betrayal, his failure now mine. It didn't start as revenge. It started with friendship, or what I thought was friendship. Daniel and I met in our final year of business school. He was sharp charming in a way that made investors lean in, even when his ideas were half-baked. I was quieter, the numbers guy. Together, we balanced each other out. He'd spin the vision, and I'd make it viable. That was the dynamic that built NovaLedger, our fintech startup. We worked out of my garage at first, burning through nights in ramen. I remember the sound of Daniel's laugh echoing against the concrete walls, his voice breaking the tension when a build crashed for the third time in. An hour. Man, it's just code, he'd say, running his hands through his hair. Code can be fixed. We're still breathing, right? It was that optimism. It made me believe we'd actually make it. We got our first big break 6 months later. An angel investor named Raj Malhotra cut us a check for $150,000 after a 10-minute demo. Daniel celebrated like we just won the Super Bowl. I was still reeling from the fact that someone believed in our product enough to put that kind of money behind it. We split responsibilities. Daniel would handle the business side. I'd focus on tech. It made sense at the time. I didn't see what it would cost me later. For months, everything looked fine. We grew fast, hired 2 developers, rented a small office. Daniel was constantly on calls, talking to potential clients, investors, strategic partners. I trusted him. He'd flash me a grin, tap the side of his temple, and say, "Don't worry, brother. I'm 3 steps ahead." Then one night, I got an email from our accountant. It was routine stuff, a monthly expense report, but something didn't sit right. There was a transaction I didn't recognize. A transfer of $15,000 to a vendor named Helios Solutions. I searched the name, expecting to find one of our partners or consultants. Nothing. No website. No registration. Just a dead end. I flagged it and asked Daniel the next morning. "Oh, that," he said, waving his hand like it was nothing. "Freelance devs. They're subcontracting for us." I wanted to move fast on the API integration. You know how slow Upwork gets with contracts. I nodded. It sounded plausible. That was Daniel, always improvising, always pushing speed over paperwork. But the transfers kept showing up. 15 grand here, 10 there, a few smaller ones scattered in between. Within 3 months, $80,000 had vanished. I confronted him the night I found out for sure. I'd been working late, combing through every invoice, every receipt. It wasn't Helios Solutions. It was him. He'd set up a shell company under that name and routed the money to a personal account. When he walked into the office, I was already waiting. "Dan," I said quietly, spinning my laptop around so he could see the screen. "You want to explain this?" He froze, his usual grin flickering and dying. "Hetest. Are you talking about Helios Solutions?" I said. "That's you. I traced the wire routes. They go to your account." His face went pale, then tightened into something I didn't recognize. Defensiveness, fear, maybe both. "Listen, Alex," he began, hands raised. "I can explain. It's not what it looks like. It looks like you stole $80,000 from our investors." I snapped, standing up. My voice cracked in the silence. "You used the company account like it was your personal wallet." He slammed his hand on the desk. "I built this too, Alex. Don't act like you did all the work. You think I didn't notice you keeping the tech side locked down? You made me the business guy just so you could hold the keys." I stared at him, disbelief curdling into anger. "Had access to everything, Dan, everything, and you used it to rob us." His jaw clenched. "I didn't rob us. I took what I needed to build something better. Something that'll actually change things." "You wouldn't have understood." That line stuck with me. For months you wouldn't have understood. Like I was too small-minded, too slow to grasp his grand vision. Ewolke Daud. That night, I didn't see him again for almost a year. By then, Nova Ledger had limped through an acquisition by a mid-tier fintech firm, barely salvaging the remains. I got a small payout, enough to keep me afloat, but not enough to erase the bitterness. I spent most of that year consulting, rebuilding my confidence, learning how to trust again. Then, one morning, I saw his face on LinkedIn. Daniel Keene, founder and CEO, Flowrate Technologies. The post showed him, smiling with a group of people outside a glass office in San Francisco. The caption read, "Honored to pitch Flowrate's vision to the incredible team at LedgerCore. Exciting things ahead. LedgerCore. I knew them. I'd consulted for them briefly. And that's when the spark ignited not anger. Not even revenge, just an idea. I reached out to LedgerCore quietly, offering G to audit Flowrate's proposal as a third-party reviewer. It wasn't hard. They trusted me, and Daniel had no clue. I combed through his pitch deck, his product mock-ups, his supposed tech pipeline. It was vaporware. Half the code base was copied directly from Nova Ledger's open repository's my code. My architecture, I didn't tell LedgerCore right away. Instead, I made an offer, a counter-proposal. I knew how to fix what Daniel had broken. I could build what he promised properly, cleanly, legally. 2 months later, I walked into their boardroom as they finalized the acquisition of Flowrate. Except this time, I wasn't consulting. I was buying it. Flowrate was bankrupt, its debts piling after Daniel failed to deliver a prototype. LedgerCore's board asked me if I wanted the IP and assets for pennies. I signed without hesitation. When the ink dried, I sat back and stared at the name on the contract, *Flowrate Technologies, acquired by A. Patel Holdings. I'd bought his company, the one he'd stolen my money to create. That night, I got a message from an unknown number. Did you really have to do that? It read. I didn't need to ask who it was. Yes, I replied. A few minutes later, his response came in. Then I guess we're even. I stared at the screen for a long time before setting the phone down. Because the truth was, we weren't even. Not yet, and I wasn't done. When I saw him again, it wasn't planned. San Francisco was small in the ways that mattered. The same conferences, the same investor mixers, the same circles of ambition wrapped in startup logos and overpriced whiskey. He walked in like he owned the air, wearing a navy blazer that probably cost more than the old office furniture d'Once Shahed. His hair was shorter, styled, like he'd finally found the version of himself he'd always been selling to everyone else. I was standing near the bar, half listening to a conversation about blockchain regulation when his voice cut through the noise. "Alex Patel," he said, and the tone light, almost amused, made my chest tighten. I turned slowly. "Daniel," he smiled, the same lopsided grin I'd seen 1,000 times before we became enemies. "Didn't think you'd show your face at something like this. Corporate life suiting you that well?" "I'm not corporate," I said, sipping my drink. "Just productive." "Productive," he repeated, laughing quietly. "Is that what you call it? Buying dying startups for sport?" "Première Schrugud. Only the ones that interest me." His jaw flexed, the grin faltering for just a moment before he recovered. "You know, I should thank you. You saved me from Flowrate's investors. They were circling like sharks. I didn't do it for you. Of course you didn't." He took a step closer, lowering his voice. "You did it to humiliate me." I met his eyes. "I did it to stop you." He tilted his head, studying me like he was trying to see what kind of man I'd become. "You're still angry," he said. "After all this time, I'm not angry," I said, though it sounded hollow, even to me. "I just don't forget." Daniel smirked. "You know what your problem is, Alex. You think this industry runs on logic and fairness. It doesn't. It runs on momentum. I had it." Yuki Ledit congratulated turned before I could reply, his silhouette disappearing into the crowd of founders and investors. But something about that last line stuck in my mind. Momentum. Because as much as I wanted to believe I'd moved on, I knew I hadn't. I'd just been waiting for my moment to make sure Daniel Keene never rose again. That moment came sooner than I expected. 3 weeks later, a journalist from TechSphere reached out to me for a comment on Flowrate's acquisition. It was a fluff piece, the comeback of honest fintech, something about ethics and innovation, but midway through the interview, the reporter mentioned Daniel. "He's working on something new," she said casually. Something called asterisk asterisk oryx asterisk asterisk. Apparently, it's a privacy first AI wallet. He's pitching again. I laughed before I could stop myself. Of course he is. But later that night, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about how he'd done it before, how he'd taken our code, our investors, our reputation and twisted it into something selfish. I wasn't going to let him do it again. So I started digging. The first thing I found was the domain asterisk asterisk oryx. AI asterisk asterisk registered under a shell company in Delaware. The second was the trademark filing under an alias that sounded vaguely European. Typical Daniel. Disguise, distance, denial. But buried in the Masdemud Familiakad. My code, a signature hash from Nova Ledger's early architecture. It wasn't coincidence. He'd stolen it again. The next day, I called someone I hadn't spoken to in years, Raj Malhotra, the angel investor who'd first believed in us. He picked up on the third ring. Alex! Haven't heard that name in a while. Hi, Raj, I said carefully. I need a favor. There was a pause. Does this favor have anything to do with Daniel Keene? It does, he sighed, the kind of sigh that came from watching too many brilliant people. Self-destruct. What did he do now? Started a new company. Using stolen tech. Again, Raj didn't sound surprised. You want me to pull his funding? No, I said. I want you to fund me. Silence, then a slow, intrigued laugh. You're serious. Dead serious. I'm building something real this time, a platform that actually protects user data, no lies, no inflated promises. I want to go public with it before he launches. He hesitated. That's not revenge. I hesitated too. Maybe it started that way, but it won't end like that. Raj chuckled softly. You always were the quiet one. Dangerous combination when you get focused. 2 weeks later, the seed money cleared $500,000 to start. I named the new company asterisk asterisk Atlas Key asterisk asterisk. A name that meant something to me. Stability, foundation, the opposite of Daniel's chaos. We built fast. I assembled a small team, 4 engineers, 1 designer, and a data privacy lawyer who used to work at Google. Every piece of Atlas Key was designed to counter the kind of manipulation Daniel thrived on. No backdoors, no data resale, no phantom subsidiaries. Clean, honest. The night our prototype went live, I found myself thinking about him again. Somewhere out there, Daniel was probably rehearsing his pitch for Oryx, believing once again that charm could outrun truth. But this time, I was ready. I leaked just enough of our product demo to the right journalists, the right investors. Not out of way the secrets to make noise. Week. At leak he was trending. A privacy-first wallet built by the guy who'd exposed flow rates fraud. It was the perfect narrative. 3 days later, Daniel called me. Clever, he said, skipping the greeting. Really clever. Didn't know you still had my number. Oh, I kept it, he said. Just in case I ever needed a reminder of how betrayal feels. I laughed. You really think you get to play the victim here? Everyone's a victim in their own story, he said. But tell me, how does it feel, Alex? Playing hero while you do the exact same thing. Undercutting, sabotaging, leaking to the press. You're not better than me. You're just more subtle. I went quiet because part of me wondered if he was right. Difference is, I said finally, I'm building something that lasts. He chuckled, low and bitter. We'll see about that. He hung up, and I sat there staring at the phone, my reflection caught in the black screen. For the first time in a long time, I realized something that chilled me. Revenge doesn't just consume the guilty, it reshapes the righteous. And as Atlas Key grew, so did that shadow inside me. The first time I realized Atlas Key had taken on a life of its own was the day an investor D never met showed up at our office with champagne and bodyguards. He said he'd flown in from Singapore just to meet me. Apparently, his firm had been tracking our momentum since our beta launch. We believe Atlas Key could redefine digital ownership, he said, shaking my hand firmly. Your name's being mentioned in the same circles as Vitalik Buterin and Max Levchin. Flattering, sure, but it didn't sit right with me. I hadn't built this company to be worshipped. I'd built it to erase Daniel, to overwrite his legacy with mine. Yet, every compliment felt like it was being paid to the ghost of the man I used to be before the betrayal hollowed something out of me. The media attention was relentless. Asterisk, asterisk, TechSphere, asterisk, 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 Wired, asterisk, 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 Bloomberg, Digital, asterisk, asterisk. They all wanted interviews. The man who bought his betrayer's dream. One headline read. I hated that one the most. It made it sound like I de-orchestrated some Shakespearean revenge saga instead of what it really was, survival. But as Atlas Key scaled, the pressure changed. Investors wanted growth at all costs. Journalists wanted exclusives. My team wanted clarity. And through it all, Daniel's shadow loomed larger. He wasn't just gone. He was circling. I found out through an industry contact that asterisk, asterisk, Oryx, asterisk, asterisk had secured $2 million in funding from a crypto venture group in Dubai the same week. A leaked memo showed they were planning a major demo event directly competing with Atlas Key's product launch. My operations lead, Priya, burst into my office the morning the news broke. You've seen this, right? She said, tossing her tablet onto my desk. On the screen, a slick promotional video. Daniel, center frame, with his trademark confidence. Welcome to Oryx, he said in the clip, his voice calm, assured. The future of financial privacy starts here. I could feel my pulse tightening. Sam rhetorique, same stolen Sri Brandy response. Priya asked. No, I said, standing. We outbuild him. But the truth was, I was already strategizing something darker. I didn't just want to win anymore, I wanted to end him. That night, I stayed in the office long after everyone left. The hum of servers filled the silence. On my screen, I had Oryx's public GitHub repository open. Cross-referencing their code commits against Nova Ledger's archived architecture. There it was again, my signature hash embedded in a function for encryption handling. Subtle, but unmistakable. He'd done it again. I thought about sending a cease and desist through our lawyers, but that would be too slow, too clean. Daniel didn't play by the rules. So neither would I. I called a friend, a cybersecurity expert named Miles, who owed me a favor. He picked up on the second ring. Alex, damn, it's been years. I need information, I said. About a company called Oryx. Quietly, he paused. You mean Daniel Keene's thing? Yeah, you know him. No asterisk of asterisk him. The guy's a walking cautionary tale. Why? He's using stolen code again. Miles let out a low whistle. You want me to confirm it? More than that, I said. Want to see how deep it goes? 3 days later, Miles emailed me a secure link. Inside was a file dump internal emails, version logs, even a few private investor memos. I shouldn't have looked. Every click was illegal and moral line crossed. But curiosity is a kind of hunger. In one of the emails, Daniel had written to his CTO, we'll patch the encryption, stack later. It's legacy Nova code, but no. One will notice. I remember staring at that. Sentence until the words blurred. No one will notice. That night, I sent the entire archive anonymously to TechSphere. I didn't sign it, didn't have to. I just watched the storm form from a distance. By morning, the headline was everywhere. Oryx under fire. Founder accused of using stolen code from former partner startup. I expected relief, vindication, something. Instead, I just felt tired. The following week, Daniel went silent online. Oryx's investors froze funding, the website went down, and his name became poison in every venture, Slack channel, from San Francisco to Berlin. I'd gotten what I wanted. Or so I thought. One evening, as I left the office, I found him waiting by my car. Nice hit job, he said, his voice hoarse, eyes bloodshot. He looked nothing like the man from the promo video, disheveled, angry, desperate. I kept my tone even. You stole from me. Twice. He stepped closer, his breath sharp with whiskey. You think this makes you clean? You think leaking that crap makes you a hero? I don't care what it makes me, I said. You brought this on yourself. He laughed bitterly. You still don't get it. You think I stole your money. I didn't. I invested it. You wouldn't take risks, Alex. You never did. You played it safe, and I pushed. That's why I had to leave. You didn't leave. I said quietly. You ran. For a long moment, we just stared at each other under the streetlight to men who had once dreamed of changing the world, now reduced to ruins of ambition and ego. He looked away first. Enjoy your empire, he muttered, turning to go. Just remember everything you built started with what I took. He disappeared into the night, and I stood there long after he was gone. The words haunted me. Everything you built started with what I took. Because deep down, I knew he was right. Nova Ledger had been born from our partnership. Atlas Key from our war. Every line of code, every sleepless night, it all traced back to him. In destroying Daniel, I'd carved a monument to his existence. And for the first time, I wondered if maybe that was his plan all along. The next few months were the kind that most founders would call a dream funding, rounds oversubscribed. A waitlist of users growing by the hour and journalists fighting for interviews. But for me, it felt like standing in the eye of a storm that I'd bu myself. Every success carried a weight I couldn't name, and every headline that praised me felt like it was written in borrowed ink. Atlas Key was thriving. Our Series A closed at $32 million, led by Orion Ventures. With press releases filled with the same empty buzzwords: visionary, integrity-driven, the new face of fintech ethics. Words that would have once made me proud now just echoed hollowly in boardrooms lined with glass and ambition. On the day of the announcement, I stood on stage at the launch event, the lights blinding, cameras flashing like automatic gunfire. Behind me, the Atlas Key logo gleamed in electric blue across a 20-foot screen. Our mission, I said, my voice rehearsed and steady, is to return control to the individual. Dojif people. The power to own their privacy and their data again. Applause, smiles, investors nodding approvingly. But when I looked into the crowd, all I could see was Daniel smirking, arms crossed, somewhere in the back of my mind. After the event, as the press swarmed and champagne flowed, Priya found me standing off to the side, near the catering table. You look like you just gave a eulogy, not a victory speech, she said, handing me a glass. I forced a smile. Maybe I buried something today, she frowned. You should be celebrating. We made it, Alex. We're finally out of the woods, but that was the thing. I didn't feel free. I felt cornered. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Daniel's last words replaying like static. Everything you built started with what I took. That night, I went back to the office alone. The city lights glimmered outside the window, refracted through the fog. My reflection stared back at me in the glass, a man in a tailored suit, successful, respected, and utterly hollow. I sat down at my desk, pulled up the original Nova Ledger codebase, and stared at it for a long time. There it was, the foundation of everything. Clean, elegant, functional. Ours, back when we still believed in building something good. I scrolled through the commit history. Minicial. Filled most of the lines. But there were his 2DK, little fragments of Daniel, scattered like fingerprints in digital amber. Functions we'd argued about. Comments he'd left in his usual cocky shorthand. Temporary fix. Alex will complain, but it works, remind him. We're changing the world. Not writing poetry. I found myself laughing quietly. It hurt to admit that those were good days. The best. Maybe. Before greed, before pride, before betrayal turned everything into a war. A knock broke the silence. Working late again. Priya's voice. She leaned against the doorframe, her eyes soft with concern. You've been doing that a lot lately. Just reviewing old files, I said. From Nova Ledger. She guessed. I nodded. She hesitated. You should delete them, Alex, for your own sake. You can't move forward if you're still chained to the past. I can't delete it, I said quietly. It's the blueprint for everything, or the blueprint for your guilt, she said, then added more softly. You're not him, you know. Whatever he did, that's not who you are. I wanted to believe her. God, I wanted to. But as she left and the door clicked shut, I wasn't sure. Premier coup. Because the truth was, every time I made a ruthless decision, every time I crushed a competitor or manipulated a leak, I heard Daniel's voice whispering, in my head, asterisk, momentum. Alex, keep the momentum. Asterisk, a few weeks later, the ghost came knocking again. Miles called me from an unlisted number. You should see this, he said. He sent me a link to a blogpost-medium.com, anonymous author. The title read, asterisk asterisk the truth behind Atlas Key, asterisk asterisk it was detailed. Pamphili Sud-Ouest. Whoever wrote it had access to insider information, internal architecture descriptions, security features, even Our beta testing protocols. But the part that hit hardest was the accusation *Atlas key is not original. Its core encryption logic was derived from a pre-existing structure built by Novaledger co-founders Alex Patel and Daniel. Keen ownership remains disputed, disputed. That word cut deeper than the rest. Because technically, the author wasn't wrong. The IP had never been formally divided after the collapse of Novaledger. Daniel had vanished before any legal agreements could be finalized. I scrolled to the end of the post. A line in italics. Truth has a way of coming home. My stomach twisted. Daniel, I muttered. I called Miles back. Trace it, I said. Fine from Anulete, he called me already new. Proxy chain leads back to a co-working space in Oakland. Registered under a fake name, but yeah, it's him. I slammed my fist against the desk, the sound echoing through the office. He was back, again. Priya rushed in. What happened? He's coming after us, I said. He's trying to burn everything down. She frowned. Then sue him. No, I said, pacing. He wants that. He wants me to react. So what? We ignore it? Premier. Stopped pacing. No, ignoring wasn't an option. Not anymore. I opened my laptop and started typing. I didn't know what the plan was yet, only that I wasn't going to let him dictate the narrative again. But as I drafted my response, a new thought crept in, quiet but unrelenting. What if he's right? What if none of this was ever really mine? Because if everything I'd built was born from betrayal, then maybe, just maybe, the only thing I'd truly created was another lie. And for the first time since this whole thing began, I wondered if destroying Daniel had really been justice. Or just the first step toward becoming him. I didn't sleep that night. I sat in the office until dawn, the only light coming from the monitors and the city beyond the glass. San Francisco looked almost innocent from up. Here fog rolling over the bay, the bridges glowing like veins of molten light, but the stillness didn't reach me. Inside, I was unraveling, one thought at a time. Every notification that blinked onto my screen was another echo of Daniel's return, blog reposts, tweets, even think pieces speculating on who really invented Atlas Key. The narrative was shifting, slowly, subtly, and I could feel the ground beneath my company tilting. By noon, 3 of our board members had called. We need to get ahead of this, one said. The optics are bad. Investors are nervous. Optics, I repeated, my voice flat. You think this is about optics. This is about control, he said. If you don't clarify ownership, someone else will. He was right, of course. The moment I'd tried to erase Daniel, I'd invited his ghost into every headline, every whisper. He wasn't just a person anymore, he was the story. And stories were what this world ran on. At 5 p.m., Priya stormed into my office, her phone in hand. We got a bigger problem, she said. She played a clip from a new podcast called Inside the Code the voice on it was unmistakable. I never meant to hurt anyone, Daniel was saying. Calm, deliberate, almost rehearsed. But Alex took what we built and twisted it into something I don't even recognize. We started Novaledger 2. Give people freedom. Atlas Key is just surveillance disguised as safety. I felt the blood drain from my face. He's painting himself as the victim, Priya said. He's winning the narrative, I muttered. The host was gushing. So you're saying the moral foundation of Atlas Key is compromised? Daniel sighed on cue. Let's just say when you build on stolen ground, the cracks always show. I closed my eyes, forcing my hands to stay still. He knew exactly how to hit where it hurt, not my reputation, not even the company's, but the part of me that still wondered if he was right. Do we respond publicly? Priya asked. No, I said, standing. We go private. Directly to him. Alex, I need to end this, once and for all. She hesitated but didn't stop me. That evening, I found myself driving through the Mission District, the sun bleeding out behind the skyline. The address Miles had given me led to a nondescript warehouse with tinted windows and a buzz-in door. Nope, company signage. Juakepad. I entered the code Miles had extracted. The lock clicked open. Inside, the space was surprisingly neat rows of desks, humming servers, a faint smell of burnt coffee, and solder. Daniel sat at the far end, typing on a laptop. He didn't look surprised to see me. I was wondering when you'd show up, he said, leaning back in his chair. You don't get to play the victim, I said. Not after everything, he chuckled. Funny, that's forced to smile to gedinch mais. You'll understand soon. She left after that, uneasy. I almost stopped her, almost told her everything, but some truths were better left buried under silence. When I came back inside, my monitor was still glowing. The scripts were waiting. My fingers hovered over the keyboard. One command, one execution. That's all it would take. Entendez-vous? Phone buzzed. An email from Daniel. Asterisk, asterisk, subject, asterisk, asterisk, you're not ready to burn it down. Asterisk, asterisk, body, asterisk, asterisk, greater than you built something people believe in. Alex. Don't turn into me just to prove you aren't to me. Be tomorrow on last team. 7 p.m. Pier 14. No lawyers. No masks. No signature. Just his name in the sender field. Lloyd W. Sasa dash asterisk Daniel. Keen asterisk. Première starée date? The message for a long time. It could have been a trap. It probably was. But part of me needed to know what he wanted to say. The next evening, the city was a haze of orange and steel. I parked 2 blocks away and walked the rest. The pier was mostly empty except for fishermen and a couple of tourists. Daniel stood at the edge, staring out at the water. He didn't turn when I approached. You brought your phone, he asked. Left it in the car. Good. I didn't want this recorded. I stopped beside him. The bay wind carried the salt and hum of the bridge in the distance. You have 1 minute, I said. He smiled faintly. Still efficient. Say what you came to say. He turned to face me then, and for a second, I saw not the rival, not the thief, but the man who used to. Laugh in my garage at 2 a.m, while eating cold noodles from a paper cup. I came to tell you to stop, he said. I blinked. Stop what? Whatever you're planning. He gestured toward the skyline. You think I don't know you by now? You've been quiet for too long. You're going to pull something big. I can feel it. You shouldn't care. He laughed bitterly. Of course I care. You are the only person who ever understood me. The only one who could actually beat me. And if you burn everything down, then what's left for either of us? Peace, I said. Peace. He shook his head. No, Alex. Oblivion. Maybe they're the same thing. He studied me for a long moment, eyes searching for something I couldn't name. You don't have to be me to win. I already am you, I said quietly. That's the problem. He didn't argue. He just nodded, almost sadly. If you can keep Guanto do at companies, it'll destroy people users, investors, your own team. Priya, her name hit like a punch. Don't. I warned. She believes in you, he said. Don't make her pay for what I did. I stepped closer, my voice sharp. You think you can make me gals cons? No, I think I can remind you what it feels like to lose your soul. We stood there for what felt like an eternity. The wind clawing at our coats, the sound of the bay beneath us like static. Between 2 dying signals. Finally, he said, if you're going to do it, at least make it mean something. Then he turned and walked away, leaving me alone with the cold and my reflection rippling in the dark water. That night, I went back to the office. I opened the scripts again, my cursor blinking like a heartbeat at the edge of oblivion. And for the first time, I hesitated. Because in that moment, I understood what Daniel meant. Oblivion wasn't peace, it was surrender. But maybe there was another way to end it, not with destruction, not with erasure, but with truth. I deleted the scripts. Then I started writing something new. A confession. Every secret, every theft, every manipulation. Nova Ledger, flow rate, Oryx, Atlas key, all of it. I wrote until dawn, my hands shaking, tears burning behind my eyes. And when I finished, I didn't send it to the press. I sent it to Priya. Her reply came hours later. Greater than, if you mean this, Alex. Then we can greater than still fix it, but you have to let it greater than all full, every lie. For the first time in greater than years, I felt something close to clarity. I was greater than ready to fall. And maybe to start again, when morning came, the city felt unnervingly still. It was greater than one of those quiet, post-storm dawns when the air greater than itself seems to hold its breath. Miambok soit. A storm of investor alerts and media requests rumors greater than. Howarding about LLT's Kinterna team. She'd done exactly what greater than she said she would. I should have been angry. Greater than. I wasn't. For once, I felt relief raw, almost painful relief. I walked into the office just after 7. The building felt different, as if the air had changed density overnight. People looked up when I passed, eyes full of questions they were too afraid to ask. Priya was in the conference room, surrounded by laptops and a stack of printed documents. She didn't look up as I entered. You read it? Shusk. I did. Then you know what this means. I do. She finally looked at me. You're sure? I nodded. No NDAs. No backroom. Deals. No spin. We release everything emails. Code commits. The real story of what happened between Daniel and me. You realize this could end us, she said. Good, I said quietly. Then maybe we can stop pretending. For a moment, she just studied me. Then she closed her laptop, stood, and said, Okay, let's do it right. We spent the rest of the day compiling everything timestamps, version, logs, investor memos. I wrote a statement, myself. No PR gloss, no legal review, just truth. To everyone who trusted Atlas Key, this company began with an idea built on betrayal. It started as a reaction, not a vision. I wanted to prove something to someone who broke me and try him, premier lost myself. The truth is that Atlas Key's foundation was born from code Daniel Keene and I wrote together at Nova Ledger. He stole from me, yes. But I also stole from him his ambition, his recklessness, his fire. I've spent years pretending that made me better. It didn't. I can't undo what's been done. But I can stop lying about what it cost. Effective immediately, Atlas Key will open source its encryption framework and dissolve all claims of proprietary ownership. Every user's data will remain secure. Every investor will be repaid from liquidation assets, and the remaining funds will be donated to the Privacy Technology Foundation. There will be no IPO, no legacy, just transparency. Alex Patel, when I hit send, there was no thunderclap, no cinematic rush of redemption, just silence. The kind of silence that follows a confession you've rehearsed for too long. We t'en en this blood. Headlines shifted from Atlas Key scandal to founder comes clean. Investors panicked, employees cried. Some thanked me. Others didn't. By nightfall, the servers went dark. Atlas Key was gone. I sat alone in my office for what I knew would be the last time. The walls were bare, the hum of the cooling systems fading. Priya knocked once before, stepping inside. It's done, she said softly. I nodded. You could have walked away, you know, she said. Buried it. Everyone would have believed whatever story you told. I've been burying things for years, I said. This time I wanted to see daylight. She smiled faintly, then walked over and set a folder on the desk. Liquidation paperwork. When you're ready. I looked at her. You're staying on to handle it. For a while, she said. Then I think I'm going to disappear for a bit. You should too. After she left, I opened the window. The sounds of the city drifted in the low hum of traffic, the distant wail of a siren, gulls circling the bay. Life went on, indifferent. That night, I drove down to Pier 14 again. The same spot where Daniel and I had lost. The water shimmered under the lights, and for a moment I half expected him to appear, hands in pockets, with that infuriating smirk. Instead, there was just the wind. I took out my phone and hesitated. Then I typed, to Daniel Keene subject, it's over. I told them everything. You were right, I wasn't ready to burn it down, but I did anyway. Just not the way you thought. What, Veriu? Do next. I hope you build something real this time. No ghosts, no lies. I hit send, dropped the phone into my jacket pocket, and stood there until dawn. When the first light hit the water, I finally turned away. Weeks passed. The noise faded. Atlas Keyus. Repositories became open archives. Developers around the world forked the code, improved it, reshaped it. My name was just a footnote in the README, and I liked it that way. Then, one afternoon, an email arrived. No subject line, no signature. Just a message. You finally did it. Maybe there's hope. For both of us. I stared at the screen for a long time. Then, for the first time in years, I smiled. There were no more headlines. No more revenge. Just the quiet satisfaction of letting the story end exactly where it should have, without heroes, without villains. Just a man who built something beautiful, broke it, and finally learned how to let it go. I spent the next 6 months in quiet exile, living out of a small cottage north of Sausalito, a place that smelled of salt and pine, with windows that faced the fog. The silence felt strange, at first too still, too wide, but after a while it started to fit. I wrote in the mornings, walked in the afternoons, cooked simple meals, and let the noise of my old life dissolve into something faint and harmless. Every now and then, I'd see an article drift across the feeds about the Atlas Key Open project. It had become a community-run initiative. Entirely decentralized, hundreds of contributors worldwide, no ownership, no board, no Alex Patel. I liked that. I liked that my name wasn't needed anymore. Some nights, though, when the fog pressed thick against the windows, I'd think of Daniel. I didn't know where he'd gone. Maybe Europe, maybe nowhere. I imagined him somewhere quiet, too older, thinner, humbled by the collapse. Maybe he was building again. Maybe he'd finally stopped. But then one morning, in late February, an envelope arrived. No return address, postmarked from New York. Inside was a single sheet of paper. No greeting, no sign-off. Just 6 words written in Daniel's sharp, uneven hand. Asterisk, meet me where we began it. Asterisk, at first, I thought about ignoring it. But curiosity is a stubborn flame. It flickers even after you think you've smothered it. 3 days later, I found myself back where it all started, the old garage in Palo Alto. The space was long abandoned now, half swallowed by ivy. The windows clouded with dust. The door was unlocked. He was there, sitting on an overturned crate, a thermos beside him. He looked older. I swear, and Gearbys were sharp ever. Took you long enough, he said, standing to meet me. I wasn't sure you'd really be here. Neither was I, he said. Sit. I leaned against the workbench, the same one we'd once cluttered with cables and half-eaten pizza boxes. The air smelled of rust and memory. Why now? I asked. He shrugged. Maybe I wanted to see if you'd come. Maybe I'm tired of running. From ghosts. You mean from yourself? He smiled faintly. That too. For a moment, neither of us spoke. Then he reached into his jacket and pulled out a small drive. You should see this. I hesitated. If this is another pitch, it's not. He plugged the drive into an old laptop and a window popped open. Lines of code filled the screen, clean, elegant, familiar. What is this? I asked. Something new, he said. Something better. He hit a key and a minimal interface appeared, a simple vault icon pulsing gently. Ite got this. Built on the Atlas Key Open framework, he said. Decentralized nodes, self-verifying transactions, but with a human layer. Users can choose how their data interacts, not just hide it. It's not about isolation anymore. It's about balance. Glossing atemu. I called it asterisk ledger light. Asterisk, I stared at the screen. It's good. He nodded. Your head eats. Is. There was pride in his voice, but not arrogance. Not the swaggering confidence he used to wear like armor. This was different, quiet, grounded. I'm not asking for anything, he said quickly. Not money, not credit. I wanted you to see it. I thought maybe you'd understand. I watched the code scroll across the screen. It was everything we'd ever tried to build, clean, ethical, open. And for the first time in years, I felt no bitterness. I do, I said. He exhaled softly, the tension easing from his shoulders. You think they'll forgive us? Maybe not, I said. But they might forget us. And maybe that's better. He laughed quietly. Yeah, maybe it is. We stood there a while longer, talking not about the past, but about the future, about what people might build from. What we left behind. It wasn't reconciliation, not exactly. More like recognition, a shared acceptance that we had both been right and wrong in equal measure. When I finally left, the sun was setting, golden light cutting through the cracks in the old garage door. Daniel stayed behind, typing something, the glow of the screen washing over his face. As I reached the car, my phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. Asterisk, you were always the better builder. Don't stop now. Asterisk, no signature. He didn't need one. I stood there for a long moment, the wind catching at my coat, the sound of traffic humming in the distance. For the first time in years, I didn't feel haunted. I got in the car and started driving north, back toward the fog, the coast, the quiet. I didn't know what I'd build next door, if I'd build anything at all, but for once, that uncertainty didn't scare me. Because for the first time since this all began, I understood that the real legacy wasn't the code or the companies. It was learning when to walk away and meaning it. The ocean was quiet that evening, the horizon a smear of silver against the deepening blue. I stood at the edge of the cliff behind my cottage, the wind cool and finally settling after years of noise. It felt like the end of something, not just a story, but a sentence I'd been serving without realizing it. I'd heard nothing more from Daniel after that day in the garage. No calls, no emails, no news. Asterisk Ledger Light asterisk appeared online 6 months later. Open-sourced and anonymous, credited to a global community of contributors. No founder's name, no manifesto. Just code, quietly alive in the hands of strangers. I like to think that was his way of saying goodbye. My days found rhythm again. I started teaching at a small university, nearby one course, Ethics in Digital Systems. It wasn't glamorous. My students were idealistic, curious, unbroken by the machinery of ambition. They reminded me of who Daniel and I once were before money, before pride, before we turned creation into competition. Sometimes, when I draw diagrams on the board, I'd catch myself quoting him. Momentum, Alex. Always momentum, but now I said it differently, softer, like advice instead of a warning. The students laughed. Roti done, not anonymity felt right. In the evenings, I still coded, though not for markets or investors. I built tools for nonprofits, privacy, frameworks for schools, things that didn't need headlines, quiet work for quiet people. Each project felt lighter than the last, as if I was unlearning the gravity of ego one function at a time. The world moved on without us. New startups rose, burned bright, vanished. Venture blogs occasionally mentioned Atlas Key as a cautionary tale. In ethics lectures, a reminder that transparency matters. They never said my name. Premier. Finuitatat. One night, I found an old USB drive tucked inside a notebook. Its casing was scratched, the label long faded, but I knew exactly what it was, the original Novaledger prototype. The one Daniel and I had written in that same garage, on borrowed hardware and dreams too big for our hands. I plugged it into my laptop. The code opened in a blink, simple, elegant, flawed. Comments, still there after all this time. I smiled, maybe, in a strange way. We did, just not how we thought we would. I closed the file and sat there, listening to the hum of the computer, mixing with the sea wind outside. The cursor blinked on the empty terminal, waiting for input. For years, that blinking had meant something: momentum, control, the next move. But now it felt like permission. To stop, I typed a single command. The screen went dark. And for the first time, there was no weight, no anger, no ghosts, just stillness. I walked outside, barefoot, the ground cool beneath me. The tide had risen, stretching toward the rocks below. I could see the stars coming out over the water, scattered and small, but steady. There was no cut, no empire left to fight over. Just the faint, beautiful realization that some endings aren't failures, they're releases. The wind carried the salt to my lips. I closed my eyes and breathed it.